Welcome everyone to this new episode of my podcast, Trans with a Voice. In this episode, I have the pleasure to welcome Matty Leblanc, a trans woman from Moncton. She's a stylist, fashionista. She was in a movie, étoile, talking about the stories of queer Acadian. I'm so happy to have you on this podcast, Matty.
Thank you so much for having me. This is so exciting.
We met almost exactly a year ago at the FICFA, the film festival.
Yeah, it's kind of ironic. And then we went to see the queer films again on Sunday. So we've had a full 1-year anniversary full circle moment.
So to start, I would like you to talk a bit more about your story, your life experience.
Well, I'm from a little village called Rogersville. Not many people live there. I moved there when I was super young. I think I was 3 or 4 years old with my mom. She's a single mother. Yeah, I had a pretty normal life, other that I was a little girl with a penis. And then I was kind of always like female presenting as a young child. I was very girly. I even had a fake alias name for when we played in the park because I looked like a little girl. And I was like that till I think until grade 7. I would still wear a lot of girls' clothes, long hair, chopped my hair off at 7. And kind of started acting more male and try to fit a little bit more in society. And then I met my first boyfriend in grade 11, and I never really came out. I just told all my friends and family that I had a boyfriend. And graduated, moved to Toronto. I lived my life as a gay man for the most parts of my 20s. And in 2018, I came out as non-binary, which was kind of like my dipping my toes in the water, if you will, and noticed that I came out as non-binary because I knew that I was not male. Like that was the one thing I knew for sure. So it was easier for me to come out more as non-binary as first, because I was like, okay, let's eliminate that. Let's eliminate the guy part. Let's go play with here a little bit. And then maybe 6 months later, not even, I was like, no, I'm a trans woman and always have been. And then I didn't do so much of a huge coming out as a trans woman because, well, for me, my non-binary experience is still a very, very trans thing. Like it's a body dysmorphia with, for me, a body euphoria all blend into one. Then I was asked to be a part of this amazing film that came here to New Brunswick. And I was asked by a good friend, Acadian, who asked me if I wanted to share my trans story in this film. And it's funny because I refused at first. I work behind the scenes. I've always worked in production. So I really wanted to create these costumes for this film. And I didn't really want to be in the spotlight. I was kind of new, and when I came out, when I had my boyfriend, I didn't want to scream it out or anything. I just did it my way. So with my transness, I wanted to do it my way also and kind of just let it happen. But then I realized it's hard to just let it happen either, because people need to know the proper pronouns and so on and so forth. So he written a really, really great part for me in this film that basically kind of plays myself. And I came out as a trans woman in this film officially, like very, very publicly. So yeah, it's a little bit about me.
That's a great story. I had the chance to see the movie. I remember you were sitting, like, I think right behind me.
I think so. You were sitting right in front of me.
I remember looking at you because I knew that seeing the movie for the first time really made you anxious. Because, like, for someone that's trans, like, you evolve a lot your first years. Like, you discover really what being trans is, like for us, what being a woman is. Another point is about like the body. In 1 year, if you get hormonal treatment, you can see a lot of change in a year. So sometimes can be hard to see like us at the beginning of our transition.
Yeah. I'm happy you mentioned that because a part that was making me nervous, and I think a lot of people didn't understand, was the movie just premiered this year, but in any film, like we shot this at this point almost 2 years ago. So you're absolutely right. Like, especially with my female feminization procedures, I've definitely got more done after the film. My hair, my body changed so much. So I think when I was telling people I was nervous, people just thought I was nervous to see me on screen, which for me really does not bother me. But what was making me really nervous was seeing me at the first year of my transitioning, like physically really starting to see changes. So I was more nervous to seeing how I was going to feel on the way I looked compared to how I look now. So that was what I was nervous for. But other than that, I was excited to see the work.
I was so happy to see you like having that euphoria after the movie, seeing you happy because I know as a trans woman, it's not easy to see us like on that big of a stage. Like we were talking about the movie premiere, really opening your art to everyone. Like we are talking about things that are really deep.
Oh, so personal in front of cameras. Well, I guess I'm doing it on a podcast now, but it really helped me, honestly.
But seeing you so happy of like the end result, I was just ecstatic. I was just ecstatic for you.
I think it was a really proud moment for queer Acadians in general, too. Like, not just for me, but we were such a full cast of queer people, and predominantly, like, our main character is a trans man. Also, just my experiences on working on a production where the director is also queer, the cast was queer, the production team was queer, like the admin people for the production was queer. It made such a safe space for everyone to just be completely themselves. Because like people keep forgetting that production, like behind the camera, it's like any corporate world. It's a man's world. So your cameramen, your lighting men, like predominantly they're all straight men. So sometimes like when you're creating this beautiful body of work that's meant to be fully queer, and especially like trans stories and multiple trans stories in front of the lens and having that voice, that was one of my first concerns where I asked our director, I was like, how many straight males are the cameramen? And he asked, well, I was like, why? I was like, well, if you can fire one and hire a woman or a queer person. But like for me, it's still very important to include everyone in the background. Because like if I'm going to be in front of the camera talking about something extremely personal, I don't want the person holding the camera just not knowing, no notion of what I am or what I'm going to talk about. Or he can be really nice, but it just, I don't feel comfortable. So yeah, it's a nice body of work. And to come out on film, I always do things big. Honestly, I was like, if I'm going to come out, and Julien was really talking to me about it, and I was like, I'm going to do it my way. I'm going to do it. Like, I was like, I'm already out. Like, I wasn't hiding it, or it was on Instagram. Like, my pronouns were there. But I was like, no, it has to be bigger. Might as well do a movie.
That brings me like to my first subject. The reason why you say like you came out during that movie, like in public, was because even if you came out on Instagram before, people did not like believe it.
I think so.
Because like you have always been really comfortable sharing the pictures of you before like transitioning, like what when you were presenting male, and that's something that some trans people or queer people will not like because they want trans people to fit the boxes of society. They want like trans women to be really feminine and only share feminine stuff.
To be Barbie in the box.
Exactly. And trans men to be alpha male. But as trans person, we each have our stories, and what we live before transitioning doesn't go away.
Exactly. Yeah. And I'm happy you mentioned that because I think also with me sharing a lot of my older photos or like a lot of my career, I was so happy of what I've done just like artistically. And since I am from a very small place where like there's no fashion world there, there's none of the life that I went out and got for myself. So like my life in Toronto, even though I was male presenting, it was this body of work, this artwork that I was like putting out there in the fashion world. And it was kind of fun because I got to play a lot with clothes, and my mom's a seamstress. So like since I'm young, I've been wearing girls' clothes, and then I started making my own clothes. They looked all feminine, but if someone was like, "Oh, you're wearing girls' clothes," I was like, "No, I made it. It has no gender." So being in Toronto and still being a gay male presenting for so long, I was trying so hard to make sure that he was so perfect. Well, I had just mentioned trans women. We kind of want to put him in a Barbie box, but it's so funny because when I was male presenting, I kind of felt like I was dressing up a Ken doll every day. And not even that it was my Ken doll, it was just a foreign Ken doll. And I had a body of clothes and accessories that I could dress him up with and make him look perfect. And I became a little obsessive of creating this perfect gentleman where when I opened up my first business in fashion in 2015, I called my business Gentlemen's Incorporated, and it was curated for just men. And I nosedived into that world of GQ magazine to men's fashion to just wanting to be that perfect gentleman and wanting to be James Bond-esque, like he had everything and was still suave and polite. And I have books even that I keep now on my coffee table called How to Be a Man, because I think it's a friendly reminder to myself that he tried so hard. And that's a huge reason why when I see photos of myself on Facebook or Instagram that are in my memories, I like to share them because I think for so many years, it didn't matter if I had abs or how much I lost weight or how my hair was and frosted tips, and like I just thought I was hideous. I couldn't see him. I couldn't see him for who he was at that time. I just knew that I wasn't seeing what felt like on the inside. So for so long on trying to be this perfect being, this perfect Ken doll in the box, prestige, unopened, was kind of like this Pandora's box. Once I opened the box and you can take his clothes off and then have fun with it, that I realized in those Facebook memories, I don't hate him. I've just resented him for so long. And as you were mentioning, it is very painful for a lot of trans people. A lot of my own personal trans friends keep that past life private, and that is such a respectable thing, and I understand that fully. At first I started getting a little bit of hate that I was sharing so much of me looking more masculine, or I like to put him as a third person, like a person that was. So like I've really didn't want to see him, and then now I look at photos and it's like I'm so happy in my transness, and I'm so happy of being out as a girl and just being a normal girl doing normal girl stuff. And that's become my life now, that I'm disassociated with that Ken doll. And now I can look at him and I get so emotional just looking at pictures of him, and not in a negative way, but in this sadness of how I thought he was so ugly. And now I can actually just sit there and look at old photos of myself and being like, oh, he was cute. He was a little handsome, and he tried so hard. He never cheated on a partner. He was always polite, tried to be the best friend, tried to be a good family member, just trying to be a genuinely good guy. And I think he really was. And I think a lot of people liked him. Actually, as I'm telling and sharing this with you guys right now, I'm having this realization of, oh, wow, I love him. And he was really, really important in my life. You know, there's a little tomboy part that comes out of me once in a while. And it's so funny because I won't put him as me anymore, but like, yeah, I can't deny that he was cool. He was a little rock star. And I don't miss him. He lives in the past. He lives on my Facebook memories, and he will always live there. There, away.
It was you at that specific time in your history.
In my history, yeah. And a lot of people keep forgetting that. Like, if I could have transitioned when I was younger, I would have done it. It's a conversation that I have with my mom a lot. But I think the fact that I had to be, or I felt I had to be, gay male presenting for 15 years. Like, 15 years is a long time. And then especially when I moved to Toronto, it was my early 20s. So like I was in Toronto for 10 years, which was the most amazing time of my life. Because I thought about it, taking all those photos down. And then I wasn't looking at the photos of me that I wanted to delete. I was like, that is my life that I'm deleting. I don't need to delete my life. Like I said, he still did that. And I'm proud of him.
Our history, like, it includes everything that happened after coming out and before coming out. It's all part of their stories. For a lot of trans people like myself, I have a lot of bad memories, like before transitioning during my childhood, my teenagers year, beginning of my adult life. So I don't share like pictures of that time because they bring me so much bad memories. Just also brings me dysphoria. That's the reason why I don't show them. But I know multiple trans people like you that are totally comfortable doing it, and it's okay. Every trans people way of dealing with their trauma, with their stories is different, and it's okay. And there's no right or wrong way to talk about our stories and to talk about how we evolve.
That puts the biggest smile on my face. It really does. Because what I love about this podcast too, I'm going through your episodes, and each and every single one of us have such a beautiful, unique, special story that just fits them. And I think at the end of the day, that it brings us so much substance. Like, we are such grounded humans because of our differences, and our differences between us as trans people, between my trans brothers and sisters. Yeah, I think it's really important for trans people to know this, but I think it's very important for the straight community to not put us all in a box. And I know it's very easy, but I think every single trans person that I've talked to, we've all came to our realization at a different time of our lives with just as much meaning and just as much power and just as much affirmation. But all of our stories are so different. And I could listen to any trans person talk for hours because it's so interesting. And even though we're all different, it's like every one of your stories will still be like, oh my God, but I felt like that. Or this is how I feel. Where for so many years, even being out as a gay man, my gay friends and I had a disconnect. Not in our friendship, but when it came to me being trans. This is me before I was out. Yeah, I think that's very important, really cool.
Like, for me, even if I don't share pictures of me before transitioning, there's still some part of my story that I will still talk about. For example, like the studies I made, my bachelor degree, that these are things I'm proud of, and it was me. Yes, I was presenting male, but I was always a woman. Was like, when I talk about me, like in the past, I use feminine pronouns, she, her. That's how I tell my story. For some trans women, they might use masculine pronoun to talk about them in the past, and it's okay. We have each different way of telling our stories, but the important part is that we were always born trans. It doesn't change that.
Absolutely. So even if you guys ever hear me put myself in a masculine past, like I was saying earlier, I do from 7th grade on down, I will identify as girl because I always was, and that's how I was born. And then I was male presenting from grade 7 till 30. That was always kind of fluid, but like I was more male presenting. So weirdly, to differentiate that time for some people, I will go and use him. But no, like I don't want to be called him. Let's make that clear.
Perfect. It's perfectly clear.
Yes, but yeah, it's interesting how we all do our thing differently. And I think that's so special.
And that brings me a bit to where I wanted to go. Like when you were young, I found that really interesting. Is like before, like I think 7th grade, you said you were presenting feminine. You were like being yourself.
Oh my God, so much.
You were, to the eyes of everyone, a girl.
It's kind of funny reconnecting with my old friends from high school recently. I just had a best friend come over last week and we hadn't seen each other for 15 years. And everyone that I talk that's known me since I'm 3 years old, when I ask them, is it a little bit of a shock that I came out as a trans woman? And all of them are like, no, we remember her. And that gave me another time of euphoria because she's sitting on my couch and she just looked at me and she was like, there you are again. I miss her. She was like, I remember her. So it's so much weirdly moving back to New Brunswick and bumping into people who's known me forever will be like, oh yeah, there you are. This makes sense. My gay boys, like my group of friends in the queer community, like I would say from the age of 19 to now, or like till I came out as me, the girl. For them, I feel for my gay friends more in the queer community, like my gay group of guy friends, they have a harder time mourning him because they've only met him. So at least for the people that's known me since I'm a child, for them, they're like, oh my God, there she is. Like, we missed you, kind of. And that feels so like, oh my God, I don't have to explain myself because they've seen her. They've met her. They met me before. So yeah, it feels so weird now. And I get to tell that to my best friends now, that for my friends from home, it's easier. My gay friends, I think now they're all good. The mourning's good. Like they've mourned, they've said goodbye, especially this summer when I go back to Toronto and seeing them because I did my full transition in pandemic. So now they're seeing me just like every few months and something else is different. So now that I'm having more conversations with them too, and when I talk about dating and stuff like that, I think that's where we felt a lot of disconnect. We don't date the same. So a lot of this just brought more of like, okay, now they're being introduced to Matty, me. Now there's a part of them that I know that they're still mourning the gay boy me. I know they miss him a little. And I have to let them grieve with that. That's not my problem.
That was part of like the presenting part.
Yes.
It wasn't you.
No.
One thing I wanted to come back on is like when we are younger, before puberty, our bodies are all the same. And that's why like when we are young, we don't also like have as much of stereotype in our heads. So it can be a good time for people to explore that gender identity, the difference between doing it when you're a child versus being a teenager is you will not think about it, will come naturally.
It's such an innocent thing when you're younger. It comes naturally, yeah.
I've heard stories like of trans girls telling their parents, I'm a girl. And what I really find empowering in your story too is your mom was there to support you.
Yeah. My mom was always there. I know she grew up as a single mother, so I think she was very protective. But even though she was so protective of me, she like every time I wanted to walk out with a dress on or a gown and we had like this tickle trunk at home. We had this box of costumes because we had a sewing shop and mom loves vintage. So we've had these beautiful dresses of all kinds and all types of costumes. So my mom was very open of like whatever costume I wanted to put. It didn't matter what it was. And I would always wear dresses. And if I would go out to play at the park, my mom would still stop and tell me, listen, Maddie, you know that some people out there won't understand the way you dress and might judge the way you dress and might say comments about how you dress. But she was very clear. If I wanted to wear that dress today, then I better well wear that dress. And I think it's a good thing that my mom was very realistic about things. She didn't tell me, no, don't do it. And she totally gave me this choice, but also gave me this little secret of life of like, people might not understand this, but I was too young to understand. I was only 5 or 6. I'm like, they won't understand why I'm wearing purple with yellow. Hello. Like, no, I'm dead serious. I wasn't understanding that she meant they're judging you because you're a boy, because I never thought I was one. Like, I was such in denial. Like, I was never one. So to me, I'm like, yeah, is this dress too much for the park? It is a ball gown. Like, you know? So it was really like that. But she kept on doing it through my teens. And my mom was always very, very pushy of me being exactly how I wanted to. I think my mom was someone that was teased as a kid. And she hid back. So I think with her, she always wanted to make sure that I had the support at home first. And this is why it's really important to let your kids be them and themselves at school. Like till 7th grade, I was wearing whatever the F I wanted on like it being like bell bottoms at the time, because it was like, 2001, they came back, but they were all girl clothes. And because we were poor, we got them at the second hand. And I would just tell people, I don't know where I got them. I don't know if they're girls or guys. To me, I felt a little bit less safe at school. You know what I mean? I was like, do I wear those at school? I don't know. And then my mom would be like, hey, they look good. If you want it, wear them. To have that just at home, to give me that little push to just like, yeah, you're right. These jeans do look great. And then wearing exactly what I wanted, I knew I could always come home and there was no judgment. So if there's no judgment at home, then who cares what people say at school? Like, my mom loves me. I know it sounds cheesy now, and it probably sounds cheesy for back then, but I'm like, where I rest my head at night is where it's safe, and I know that I can be who I want to, and I can come home and play with my Barbies.
I love it, and that's just a great experience to share. Last thing I want to add is just, you said something really interesting about when you talk about like being a trans woman to people you knew from school, from before 7th grade. They were not surprised. They were like, yeah, I remember.
Yeah.
But I think that's not necessarily an experience that maybe a lot of trans people sadly have with their schools and with their schoolmates.
And don't get me wrong, I did get teased like as a younger age. Like I was just called girl though. So whatever. I guess they knew before I did. So my insult was literally girl. Like that was it. You are right. I have such a strange journey where I got to be her and people remember her. Yeah. Which I think a lot of people never got to express themselves for queer and trans people when it comes to clothing. So I think because I had that liberation from an early age too, I never felt so suppressed. Like for me, it wasn't like, I'm just dying to wear a skirt. Like I'm dying to wear a skirt. Like I was like, I've worn a skirt many times out at a bar. I'm so happy I didn't stay so suppressed. But I can only imagine if I never got to do that as a kid, I don't think I would have made it. And I know that goes like dark real fast, but like really thinking about it, it makes sense because my whole career has been fashion and clothes and style. So that's how much it meant to me, is how much I could feel like a girl with a pair of girl jeans and even a girl hoodie, like a tomboy, as long as it was girls, then the euphoria was there. And I felt it. Yeah.
So yeah, I'll just quickly share, like, for me, like, I got teased a lot at school. It was harassment.
That's terrible.
It was really hard on me, and it, like I explained in the other episode, it got me to be super shy and to be really excluded from everything going on. And when people really harass you day after day after day, and not just, yes, there's always the ringleader, but when everyone just laugh with that person, you just don't want to be different anymore.
Absolutely. You just want to fit in. You just want to blend.
You just want to blend, and even more than that, you just want to be forgotten. When you reach that point, it's hard. And in the moment, you try, like, to survive. And it takes years to really understand the impact of what happened to you. So for me, like, I don't have, like, great memories from school, be high school or elementary school. I'm not in touch really with anyone from elementary school. High school, a couple of people are now my friends, but they were not people I was hanging out with. High school was hard because I didn't have, like, any friends. I was just there with some people. I didn't want people to see me, like, alone, so I get bullied more. Some people I don't want to talk to, and I didn't have a lot of interaction with people who I went to school. Actually, I got a couple of messages last week from two people. I know these were not people that were bullying me, but it was nice to know that they felt bad for what happened. It was not people that bullied me, but still, like, was nice to know, like, they appreciate my podcast, and they said that, like, I did not deserve to live through what I went through, and that was really sweet. And
because it's true. No one should. I'm so happy they reached out.
For a lot of us trans people, talking to some old schoolmate can be hard. Seeing people that bullied us, that excluded us, rejected us, can be hard. So I just wanted to mention that for a lot of trans people, they will not have the same experience than you. And I'm super happy that you were able to have that slice of time. You could be yourself. Like you said, it kept you alive.
It did. And it's even more talking here with you tonight that I've had so many realizations having these conversations. And I do feel really, really lucky. At least I feel like I'm going to leave here tonight very joyful and blessed. As cheesy as it sounds, I feel really emotional right now. Yeah. Thank you.
You're wonderful.
You're wonderful. Well, thank you for sharing that side too, because I think it's very important to hear the struggles. It's not rainbows and sunshines. There is always a rainbow at the end of the storm, though.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
Thank you.
We are at the end of the podcast, so I just want you to tell our listeners how they can learn more about you and reach you.
Well, if you guys want to reach me or come and follow me at my Instagram at Matty1028, that's Matty 1028 all together. Also, I do hair in Moncton. I have my business at M&Co at 47 Mountain Road. So I take appointments through Instagram. I'm looking for new clients because I was away for 10 years in Toronto. So yeah, come and find me there. I'm usually so open. My page is very queer friendly. So if you have any questions or anything, especially any of my trans brothers and sisters out there, I will always be able to reach out back to you guys. So yeah, I hope to see you and thank you for having me.
Thank you to you. That was just an amazing experience. It was a lot of fun, and I'm sure our listeners learned a lot listening to this episode.
Okay. Bye.
Finally, I invite you to subscribe to my podcast on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, or Google Podcasts, and to follow Trans with a Voice on Facebook and Instagram. Don't forget that a society that is more inclusive to the transgender community is better for everyone. Thanks, and see you next time.